Let's talk about overthinking. If you're someone whose mind doesn't switch off and it's very busy in your head, there's a lot of mental chaos. Maybe you stay awake at night overthinking your decisions from the day or what you need to do tomorrow, and you're not getting a lot of quiet time, this video is going to be helpful for that. I want to talk about overthinking from a hopefully new perspective for you, because the goal of not overthinking is to make your mind a nice place to live, right? Your mind is a constant in your life. You're always going to be in your head with your thoughts. And so if you can make those thoughts less, or if you can make them kinder, then your mind is going to be a nicer place to live. Okay, so we'll go into that a little bit and perhaps some tools you can use to start to create a nicer head environment, a nicer internal environment. Now, the mistake I see a lot of people make is that they spend a lot of time thinking through decisions, and it is easy to get stuck in logic loops, in trying to understand the situation and the decision from multiple different perspectives, trying to understand what might happen if you pick option A, what might happen if you pick option B, what might be the perceived response. And it can get really busy and noisy, and you can go in circles a lot here, which is quite tiring. Of course, it does help to have a objective view of the situation before making a decision, but it's only helpful to think things through once or twice, right? Not over and over and over again. This leads to hesitation. So, there can be hesitation in making a decision because you want to make sure you've got it right. You want to know all of the possible outcomes and situations, okay? And there can also be hesitation if you're filtering through what other people might think or how your actions or decisions may be received. Will that be the right thing? Will they think that I did the right thing, right? And there's hesitation because you're not just filtering through your mind, you're filtering now through the minds of others. And so considering all of these potentials and possibilities can cause a lot of mental chaos. It can make you feel a little bit anxious because you don't know how the other person is going to respond. You can never truly know what that person is thinking or feeling. So it can cause you to hesitate in making a decision, and it can prolong this thinking game, right? There's also comparison, which is another form of overthinking of, well, this person did this. If they were in my situation and they did that and that worked out for them, should I be doing the same? Should I be doing similar? Should I be doing something completely different, right? And then looking at where other people are in their journey and trying to filter your decision through that is also not as helpful, okay? This is partially because when we're doing this, it's partially because we're in a state of survival and we are trying to do what it takes to survive, what it takes to fit in, to mold and be acceptable in the external world, right? Through a perceived set of standards and expectations, and we're trying to fit a box, right? To be perceived a certain way. This is very much a survival mode way of operating if you're constantly in your head and your mind is never really stopping to slow down. Okay, the challenge with doing all of this is, number one, it's exhausting. Your mind uses a lot of energy. And so if you're using that energy over and over and over again just to consider the situation before you move on it, then by the time it comes to taking action, you're probably too tired or lacking the willpower to take the action because you need to rest now. Okay, so you're wasting valuable brain power in what could be used on moving forward and making progress towards a goal or outcome that you want. Right, this could lead to missed opportunities. It can also lead to resentment, especially if you're filtering and making decisions based on what other people might think, what other people have done, what you think might be the right thing, what you can do to make sure you don't let others down or disappoint them or upset them. If you choose based on this lens, that's choosing for others. That's not choosing for you. So then it's easy to actually not want the thing that you've chosen. It's like someone asking you to do something and you just say yes because you think it's the right thing, when you haven't considered that you've already got a full schedule, or you've got other things on, or you don't even really want to do that. Okay, and so if you're giving away your yeses willy-nilly and not considering, actually, is that going to work for you? Is that going to feel good? Then you're likely going to resent the other person because you're going out of your way to help them or do something for them, but it's setting you back. Okay, and this is not a nice place to live, because then if you're resenting someone, their habits and behaviors become quite annoying, and it creates a little bit of separation, a little bit of distance in the relationship. What it helps to understand here is that the mind's job is to keep you safe, right? It's typically operating from a state of self-preservation, self-protection, right? To do things that would keep you out of harm's way, to help you to fit in and do the right thing in society. Back in older times, war times, we were very much in a survival state where those decisions and thoughts were very much keeping us alive, away from physical threat. Now, however, we are in a safer, more predictable society. There's our survival needs are mostly met. There's food and water and shelter for a lot of us, and a lot of us are fortunate enough not to be in direct war zones. And so this gives way to a new way of thinking, where we can then choose from desire, not just from fear and keeping safe. Okay, so there's more opportunity to think from this way. A lot of us are still stuck in this survival way of thinking. It's not necessarily necessary in our time, right? But it's the default mode. It's the sort of standard way of thinking and being. And a lot of people are in this overthinking because it's actually built into the nervous system, that the nervous system is then scanning for threats and keeping us safe. And that's always what these thought loops are proving to do, is to keep us safe in whatever way that you deem to be safe. Okay, so that's important to consider, because when we look at the alternative and choosing from desire, what actually we want to do and what feels good, there's a choice point and a little bit of a shift in operating system that needs to happen for us to accustom that. Now, before we get into that, I also want to point out that all problems exist with a solution already created, okay? So when we're like stuck and we're thinking through a decision and we're not really sure which way to go, it can feel like there is no solution. And so we're racking our brains trying to figure out what to do next when there's not really any solution in sight. Now, a problem typically cannot be solved from the same state that created it, right? The same level of consciousness or awareness. Like if you're in the problem, it's really hard to see the solution, okay? And so there needs to be a shift out of that problem state to then see what needs to happen to solve it. Okay, so we can talk about how to get there, right? And this is really about coming out of that mental chaos and into a state of calm. It seems counterproductive to actually get out of the head to then make a decision, but that's the best way that you can do it. Because if you shift states, i.e. you get out of the head, then you can see more clearly to see the answer. Now, if you're getting out of the head, where are you going? The missing link is often the body. Getting out of the head and into the body, into a calmer state, so that the mind can sort of quiet and rest. And from that rested state, typically you're going to have access to more information. It might not be logical head brain information. It might be intuitive information. It might be a feeling sense, a desire. It might be that you notice that when you think about doing option A, your body contracts, but when you think about doing option B, your body expands. And so sort of learning to interpret and make decisions from your body and felt sense and from your heart space rather than just your head is the better way to move out of this chaotic state and into this calm state. Now, there's a few reasons why this works and this helps. Is because one, you're going to be calmer, and if you're calmer, you're thinking clearer. right? It can be really challenging to think of solutions when you're in like an activated state or when you're in an emotional state. And so the calmer you are, the clearer you're going to think. The clearer you're thinking, then you're going to make clearer decisions, right? If you're consulting your body's knowledge and information and intelligence and your desires, right? If you're working with your body and your mind and you're bringing them into coherence to make the decision together, your decisions are going to be clearer, but they're also likely going to be more aligned and to feel better for you because you've considered a bit more depth than what logically would keep you safe. You've considered what does your body actually want and how does your body respond to that information. Being able to calm down, and there's many ways that we can do this, but being able to shift out of your head means that you're more in control of your mind, right? If you're laying awake trying to sleep at night and you can't sleep, it can feel really difficult to tame your thoughts, to control your thoughts, to quiet your mind. And you can actually put a lot of willpower and effort into quieting your mind, whether you're counting sheep or whatever that is, some sort of form of distraction. If you're able to shift states and get out of your head into your body, you can actually consciously slow those thoughts. And then you're going to feel more in control of your mind because your mind is going to start to quiet. And you'll probably get some more sleep. So that is one benefit of learning to get out of the head and conditioning yourself to actually, when things get a little bit overwhelming, a little bit too much, to actually remove yourself and to take a break and to sit in silence and to allow your body to sort of figure it out for you, not needing to figure it out from your head brain. Okay, another benefit of this is that you're going to have more energy because you're saving that capacity of thinking, and it's more restful to be out of your head in your body, right? So you're going to have more energy to actually like execute on the things that you want to do, to take action towards your goals, and likely you're going to be more present with loved ones, because if you can control your mind and stop the overthinking, then you can spend time with your family without mentally feeling like you're in 100 places at once, or without mentally being at a work meeting, right? You can actually just be in the room with your family, with your loved ones, and spend the time and give them your attention, because that is felt often. Your absence, even if you're physically present, but your emotional, mental absence is felt. And so a benefit of being able to stop overthinking, to be present, is that you're going to build healthier relationships. You're going to connect on a deeper level. Now, I guess what is required for all of this is a choice, of course. It always starts with a choice of like, hey, I'm going to learn to change my way of doing things and maybe getting out of the head a little bit more. Okay, so there's a self-awareness piece required of hey, I'm getting into my thought loops, my logic loops. The mind's a bit noisy here. So there's a self-awareness of like recognizing that, okay, I'm going down this avenue and I don't really want to. And then there's a choice of like, hey, I'm going to do what I can to get out of my head. Okay. The practices here are all just about slowing down. You can learn to shift your consciousness state, like using a theta brainwave. That's what I recommend just because it's quicker. But any form of meditation is actually helping you shift your brainwave states to get out of your head and into your body. There's ways you can bring the heart online, just focusing through that, but it's usually a mindfulness meditation practice, right? There's an awareness piece here of just recognizing when you're heady and then choosing to get out of your head, whatever that looks like. It might even look like going for a long walk, right? Going for a swim, taking your mind off the task, just removing yourself from the thinking process, which can be addictive. And just making a choice to like, hey, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm just going to allow my mind to switch off, and then I'll revisit the problem later. And often when you're out walking and doing something that requires you not to think, then the answer might just pop in. And this is a example of like where your intuition is coming online because you're not in your head, where you can receive more information. And ultimately, the more that you get in the body and the more that you understand how you're feeling, I think would interoception of just perceiving how it is that you're feeling, what's going on in your body, whether you're tense, whether you're in fear, the more that you learn to work with that, the more that you can shift that, right? Because you have conscious choice at all times. So you can say, oh, I notice I'm maybe a bit afraid of what people will think of me, and so that's affecting my decision. You can start to shift that into more truth. What might be the truth here? Well, the truth is that I want to do this thing, and it doesn't really matter what they think, because that can't affect me, or that doesn't affect me, and choosing that and moving forward, right? And this is like a process of rewiring. And the more that you rewire yourself out of fear into truth, into faith, the more that you just trust that things are going to go well and go according to plan, right? And this is how you ultimately trust yourself and back yourself and move on and make decisions, and then just keep moving rather than, second guessing the decisions or overthinking them or replaying them, right? There's just a little bit more self-assuredness in this path of going within and working with the body and understanding how you're feeling and moving from that place. It's also beautiful because the more that you clear, the more that you start to hear, right? So the more that you shift yourself out of fear, the more that you shift yourself out of negative self-talk or self-judgment or overthinking, and more into truth and calm and clarity, then the more that your intuition is going to come online, the more that you're going to be open to receiving information or nudges from your heart that are just saying like, hey, we want to go this way. And the more that you can hear that, well, the more that you can follow that. And the more that you can follow that, the more that you are going to create a life that feels good for you, not one that you created for others and then feel resentful for. Okay, so I hope that helps. I hope that gives some sort of process you can start with to stop the overthinking, but it really does start with a choice to calm. Now, if you found this helpful, make sure that you make sure that you hit subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you next time.